We are breaking down episode 8, the season finale of Dark Winds season 3. Welcome to Screens in Focus, the podcast where we talk about TV and movies. I'm Diana. Renee is here. Hi, Renee. How are you?
Hello, I am doing very well. How about you?
I'm doing really good. I wanted to take a moment and give updates if you have any. So I'd love for you to share any updates happening.
Well, at the end of the month on Memorial Day weekend, I'll be heading back to the camp in Peachtree City, Georgia. This event's been going on for several years now, and it's a lot of Walking Dead. It's a convention, but it's such a typical convention. We've got a lot of Walking Dead guests. This year, we also have some from the series From. There's, I think, 3 or 4 of them. So that's very exciting. And yeah, this convention, you can find them at thecampevents.com and find out all the information. Lots of great guests. Lenny James, Stephen Ogg, Tom Payne, Chandler Riggs, Emily Kinney, Seth Gilliam. I mean, I could just keep going. It's just it's so much new people, some returning. And there's a lot of, they give a lot of like more intimate events. So you can do like hand painting with Chandler Riggs, where you do the little porch thing like him and Judith did, and have your little handprints with, and just fun things like that. So just check that out on their website. And if you're a Walking Dead fan, especially, you will not be disappointed. It's just the most fun. So that's coming out Memorial Day weekend.
I think that is so exciting. I wish I lived so much closer so I could attend. I would love that. But I did want you to share that information because I know it's really exciting. And just anyone that is a Walking Dead fan or even From or anything else would really, and even, people that just enjoy these actors in other TV shows and movies that they're in. It would just be really fun to participate in that. So yes, I wanted you to share that. Also because The Walking Dead Dead City begins May 4th. So I can't wait. So excited. Can't wait for that. So just wanted to put that out there for anyone who wants to know that. But we are going to dig into Dark Winds because it is the finale. Oh, we've been waiting. So our question of the day. In honor of Chekhov's gun, which is if you show a gun in the first act, you better bring it back into play by the end. So, and with all the twists that we saw in Dark Winds, the question of the day is, have you ever had a small moment or clue in life that ended up being a bigger deal later? Okay. So Renee, you think about that. We're going to answer it later on. Friends out there, think about that question and we'll discuss it. So much happened in this episode. Normally we give our initial thoughts, but you know what? We're going to just dig right into our highlights because it was a really good finale. So what was a highlight for you, Renee?
So I think Bernadette's story just through the whole episode was just really engaging for me. I was excited to see what was going to happen with her. I was cheering her on, like when she's saving herself, because you had speculated that could be, like she doesn't need someone to come. She's pretty, intelligent. And so I love that you were right about that and that she was able to help herself. And of course, as you mentioned, the feather came back into play. And so I thought that was super cool that, Joe's not there with her, but he's still able to protect, she was able to use that feather that he made to protect herself. So I thought that was just really, kind of neat that she does rely on him. She's told, we've learned a little more about her story with him. And it was also nice to see Ivan step up, even though we knew, what he was doing. But I thought it was great that, showed his true character kind of thing, it was too little too late, I think, for the relationship that they were resolved. But at the same time, it was nice to see him come to her aid and come to her side there in the end. So I just loved everything. Yeah, her whole story, how it tied up this season.
I loved it too. And I am so glad that she did it on her own. I thought that just said so much, because we kept saying, who's going to be there to back her up? But it's like, no, she can do this on her own. She can figure it out. I was scared for her, though. I thought, you're handcuffed to this steering wheel. How are you going to get out of this? But I
Mhm.
love that she found a tool.
Mhm.
Again, another tool, because she figured out something with a tool in the previous episode,
Mhm.
but just breaking herself out, and how Budge was going to get rid of her the same way he had gotten rid of that other guy in the
Yeah.
beginning. Oh my, so many people must be buried all over the place
Yeah.
there, because that's just a common way of getting rid of people for Budge.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he tells her, oh, people always say, why me? And he says, but this is the choice that you made. And then at the very end, he says the same thing back to her. I mean, knowing that he is, dying.
Mhm.
But I just thought that was pretty good. And I
Yeah.
was so happy for Bernadette just doing it all on her own. Really, seriously. I just thought that was such a good storyline, that she didn't really need anybody. And you're right about the feather. It's the feather that Joe had given her, I think, in season 2. And that's the whole Chekhov's gun, how we don't realize something earlier on is going to come into play. So it was just a really cool moment. So yeah, so happy for her. And yeah, with Ivan, he wasn't the worst guy, right? He was the best of all the people that were there. And so, yeah, I thought that storyline tied up really well.
Yeah.
Oh, but I did predict that Ivan might die, and he didn't die,
Yeah.
but I'm glad. I'm
Yeah.
glad he didn't. So happy about that. All right. And so Joe and Chee had that big showdown at the train station, and just their attire. I wanted to bring that up before we actually dig into what happens at the train station. I love that they were in these regular outfits. Like, were they trying to camouflage themselves, I guess, within everybody else?
Yeah.
And Chee wearing his polyester leisure suit, which was pretty popular in that time. And just watching Joe in his outfits. I did really like their shirts, both of their shirts throughout and at the end of the episode. Also, I noticed their shirts, like they popped to me. So whoever did their costuming was just really good in that aspect. But anyway, back to this shootout. What did you think about them finally getting Dr. Reynolds?
Yeah, I loved how
George.
they did it. I did think it was a little rushed, but I wanted to see it kind of be more, like, I don't know what else I wanted to see, but I felt it was a little rushed, but satisfactory at the same time, Yeah, it was just to give you that like Old West kind of feel, or I don't know, like I read someone had kind of compared it to like a Bond movie or something with not quite as much action, but kind of just that feel of that, running through the train and doing all these things, trying to find the guy and whatever. So yeah, I thought it was really cool that she was the one to kill him and not Joe, who has already, he's already struggling a lot with this whole, if you kill someone, they kind of become part of you or whatever. And so I thought that was really interesting that they chose that way to take care of Reynolds, So yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was just a neat thing. And did you read that train was actually owned by George R.R. Martin, which I thought was so cool. Like, my friend owns the train. No big deal. We'll go use that, So, and since the executive producers on the series, they're like, oh yeah, look, we'll go use his train. So I thought that was super cool.
I love that. I just read that today. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, about the train. They also said the train was used in Oppenheimer, if that's correct.
Now that you say that, I read something, but I never found the article. Like, I think I like you're scrolling and it goes away and you try to find it back. Yeah, I didn't ever look into that then. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So it's fun learning these other things that are tied to the episode. Yeah, I mean, thankfully George made it home, and I love that she brings him home to,
that was sweet. That was just a fun,
to Shorty and all of that segment. There was a moment I was going to bring up about, that Dr. Reynolds killed Teddy. That was pretty bad. I couldn't figure out what was going to happen with her, and I'm like, damn, you killed the poor woman. He did it accidentally, but still he killed her and put her in the trunk. I wanted to say that I felt bad for George for feeling so guilty about Ernesto, and how Joe could understand how he felt and kind of had that talk with him about, he made a mistake, but it wasn't his fault because it was a, person doing bad things, killing people, that it was his fault, Dr. Reynolds' fault, not George's. So I appreciated that conversation from them.
And just one time about Dr. Reynolds, I did feel like he was remorseful about Teddy. Like he had that look on his face. I don't know what he intended to happen, but I felt like he was, he did regret what happened with her. Just a fleeting look on his face after she fell and hit her head.
Well, true. And I was also going to say, as you said that, the fact that he did let George go, because it looked as though he was having a second thought.
Yeah.
When Joe was like, come on, let him go. You don't want to do this. And he kind of looks at the kid and then he lets him go. And then he changes the gun to the other hand. And I'm thinking, are you doing this because you want Joe to shoot you? Like you're using your other hand? What did you get from that?
Yeah, I didn't quite understand what he was doing. I agree with the facial expression and how I felt it was kind of similar to what he did when Teddy died. I don't think he's a murderer normally, you know what I mean? But he just, for whatever reason, decided to do these things that led him to that. But yeah, the gun thing, I didn't understand what was going on there exactly, but maybe he just felt like he had no way out. And if Joe shot him, then he wouldn't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking, what was happening, because I'm thinking, well, you had the gun in your right hand, which would have been your dominant hand. So why are you putting it to your left? To me, that means I'm trying to maybe not shoot you and you're going to shoot me because I'm going to raise this gun and somebody's going to have to shoot me. So that is what I gathered. But I was just curious to know if you had a different feeling about that. But yeah, so I think he did have some, I hate to say even a touch of humanity, because of the way he treated and the way he killed Ernesto was so horrific to me that I just felt like that was so unforgivable. So at least he let George live and didn't do anything to him, because he could have just been a really, really bad guy and thrown him off or killed him. So like Budge, who didn't didn't care about who he killed and why.
or anything, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I do want to talk about Chee and Bernadette. And I know it was at the very end and it was very short, but oh man, was it so impactful, because Chee is feeding her horses and she comes driving up and she gets out of the car and not a word is spoken, but so much is said by the looks on their face. Oh my God, it made me so happy. What did you think?
I loved it. Yeah. And I just thought, she looked so sweet. She was all dressed up and she looked so cute, had her hair all done. We usually see her with her hair back, from work. And so it was fun to see her in a real outfit and her hair all done, and his smile when he saw her, and that he was being so sweet to take care of her horses for her, and like you said, the looks are what spoke in this, and it was and they said volumes, and so yes, I loved it. I thought it was so much fun. Like I had said before, I always kind of didn't feel like they had this good connection. I mean, not that I didn't think they liked each other, but just like it was kind of vanilla, and just kind of, I don't know. So this gave me hope, like, oh, okay, it can be more of a romantic and more fun kind of thing. So yeah, I thought it was great.
I so agree. Thinking back about you did say that and I understood it, but here I did feel it. Like I felt it. Like they didn't have to say anything, and just the way it grew on him, the facial expressions, like he looked at her and then it was the back and forth, but it would gradually got bigger on his end, and he kind of like chuckled, I guess, a little bit. Like him, I don't know. It was just the sweetest thing. I loved it so much. Now, on the other aspect of that, we see Joe going through such a heartbreak, even though he did everything that he was supposed to do in his position. It cost him. And so with Washington bringing him that cassette tape and him listening to it, oh my gosh, it was so heartbreaking. What did you think of that? part of it.
Yeah, I love that Washington brought him the tape because, she tells him, I know you did this. I can't prove it in court. I mean, that, she just like, there's no doubt in her mind that he did this, and she just cannot get the proof to actually put him on trial for it. But it was, just kind of nice that she didn't have to give him that tape. I mean, like I still don't kind of understand why she did it, because she's mad because she didn't get her to solve her case, but she still had that. I don't know if she intended it to be a mean thing. She didn't act like it. It was just like, here, you should, listen to this or whatever. But I just love that she did it because he needed to hear Emma's thoughts from her own mouth. Someone else telling him this isn't going to have the impact that this tape did. And it's a lot of things that she probably couldn't say to his face because it was just too painful for her, to even say them at all. But to look at him and say them right to his face, she loves him regardless of everything that's happened. We know this. And she's just not happy. Like I always say, you can still love somebody, but not like them. You can just have that type of a thing going on. And I think this is the only way he would actually hear exactly what she's feeling without her kind of guarding herself to say, you don't want to hurt your husband. You might be upset.
Yeah.
You still have those feelings. They're still there, that bond and everything. So I just think it was such a neat thing that she gave it to him so that he could hear exactly what she was thinking in that moment. And as hurtful as it was for him.
I was going to say, I have like mixed feelings of him listening to it, because I think that he probably should, but at the same time, I can understand it being really hurtful. And because she's being completely honest, but those words, it hurt. I think those hurt, because saying, I don't know if I'll be able to forgive him. How do you live with that when your loved one says that? They'd been together 24 years. And I like when he and Gordo talked about marriage. I thought that was a really good moment between the both of them sharing that, and just, the loss of what this is for them. And just talking about the beginnings, about when they met after college and such. I had a feeling that their relationship was not going to be mended by the end of this episode, because that was just too much. And I think that is probably a good thing, because all of us are like, oh my gosh, Emma's gone. What's going to happen? She wasn't even in this episode. Only her voice was. That's all. And so I don't know. I feel for him. I feel so bad for him. And I almost felt like he was listening to something he shouldn't have been listening to. I don't know. I like I said, I just have such mixed feelings about him listening to that tape, but I still think it was good because it makes me feel this way. Like writing wise, and the episode and the season and what it means for next season, I think it's put in here perfectly. It's just my emotional reaction is that of Joe going through this that hurts, because I care about Joe a lot as a character, and I just feel really bad for him. All right. So themes. What themes did you see in this episode?
So this is going to just kind of tie into what we were saying, but I was thinking about heartbreak and healing for Joe, because I think it's I understand what you're saying about the mixed feelings and this is like something he shouldn't have heard. But at the same time, I feel that there have been times where I've, had a conversation with someone saying things that whether it's my husband or whoever it is that I, having an issue with or something, I say something that I would love to say to them, but I don't want to hurt them, so I wouldn't be able to say it because yes, I'm upset. Yes, I'm having trouble with whatever's happening. But at the same time, I'm not one of those people that wants to be mean and hurt people during those times, because that doesn't solve anything. And so these are words that she would not have, I just feel like she would never have said these in that way to him. Complete honesty, her heart was completely open, and she shared all of that with Washington. And I think partly she did it with Washington to get it off, to unburden herself with all these feelings, and plus it kind of made Washington feel she was going to say, oh no, I wasn't with him. I think that, she was very hopeful that that's where that was leading. But I feel like I said here, him hearing those hard truths from his wife's mouth, I think is going to be a very integral part in him to begin healing from this stuff, because before he can fix his marriage, he's got to fix himself. And he can't even think about working on his marriage until he can figure out in his own brain how to handle the death of his son. Leaving vines out there, regardless of whether he thinks it was the right thing to do or not, it is a burden on him, because the police officer in him is like, that was not the right thing to do, And so, so I just feel like this will be, a stepping stone for him to start healing.
Yeah, because he's building that fence. He doesn't know she'll come back or not, but this is what he's doing at that moment because he had the dream of her saying, you never built that fence for me. And so now he's like, okay, I'm going to build the fence in case she does come back so that I will have done something that she wanted me to do. And talking about Joe, I had grief and isolation because his greatest battle isn't with the criminals. It's with loneliness, it's with regret, and it's with guilt that he feels. So, and he's got to work his way through it. And like I had said last episode, he was taking, accountability for what he had done. And I think he continues to do that. And now that he has solved this case, what do you do now? So you got to work on that marriage of yours and figure your way back to your wife one way or another. And I think for Emma, she needs time.
Yeah.
She just needs time, because I thought there's no way they're going to get over this quickly. This was really a painful time for them. And especially because it does stem from grief of their son dying. So that's just a long process that people need to take to figure it out. So it'll be something that we really look forward to in the next season. What other themes did you see?
I was thinking how, we saw justice for everyone but Spencer, the ringleader of it.
I know.
I mean, I thought, it was so great that, Bernadette was able to get in there and she was able to uncover all this information, and all these people were arrested and they were taken, we saw them being taken away, and, her intuition was correct. She just couldn't figure out exactly how they were doing it. And then she discovered that inside the truck. And then here we see Spencer, he's wherever he's at in the ocean, and he's there, you know what I mean? And it's like, so, but I do think that that's not the last we've seen of him then, because, he's not going to let this girl ruin everything he's built, illegal or not. I don't feel like he's just going to let that go, So I feel like we'll see him again.
How is he untouched, though? Do you really think that captain didn't say a word?
Well, but if he looks like he's in another country, and they maybe couldn't get him.
Oh, maybe.
To me, that was not the United States. I mean, just looking out, it was pretty brief. But like when he flung open those doors and that view, I don't think that was in the United States. So he must have fled somewhere. I know there's countries you can flee to that they can't touch you or whatever.
You're right. I don't know why I was thinking he was in Mexico somewhere, or I don't know where he was.
Yeah, I don't think it said. I didn't see it, hear anything, because at first I was kind of confused because I thought he was still where he was talking to the captain guy. And then I'm like, wait, no, that is not where he was, because once he flung those doors open, I was like, okay, he's somewhere very I guess.
Yes, you're right.
But just, that was someplace else. So that's what I just assumed. But I mean, that doesn't mean I'm right, because
it makes sense. It makes sense because he's free, because I think that's why they showed it, right? Because it's like, oh, look, he figured out where to go to be safe so that he wouldn't be, jailed up in prison. So, Ugh.
I know.
Those rich guys, they always get out. This is why Indian justice had to happen.
That's right. Spencer needs to see that next.
So I had community and legacy because I saw that with Chee in being the one that killed Reynolds, because Joe is usually the person that has, he's the higher authority, and he's usually the person that has to kill people and handle things. And I feel as though he was passing the reins along a little bit. That's what it felt like. So I think Chee just, kind of coming in and being that person, I felt like I saw that with him, that community and legacy. And also that Joe doesn't have to carry all of this on his own.
Mhm.
I remember saying earlier to you when Emma kept saying to him, you don't have to handle all this. You don't have to do it all. And he kept doing all of it. I kept saying, well, who else is going to handle it? Because this is Joe. This is what Joe does. And he's the one working, late at night and all hours and just, his mind thinking. But I also think that she has learned a lot from Joe. And so I think she learning a lot is able to do some of these things instead of Joe. So, and maybe this going forward will give Joe the opportunity to work on his marriage and go away. Maybe he needs to go away and be with Emma and put her as a priority and let Chee take the reins for a little bit. So, especially if Bernadette is back.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of healing and hope because we had seen George's rescue and he and Bernadette's love story hint at healing is possible, but only if you're able to open up and trust again. And like we had seen with George and his dad Shorty, I thought it was just a really nice that he tried. That it was so awkward for Shorty to give that hug to his son. Like he just didn't even know how to do it. But can you imagine? I mean, for some people, some women too, not as much, but men just have a really hard time showing love and hugging one another. And so I think that was so big for him, but he was able to do it. And so, that's healing and hope. So I really enjoyed seeing that. Oh, man. Okay. So with this being the finale, I want to know, did you have any last thoughts on the season? Or, this is the first time we're actually digging into it in a podcast. And you and I had talked earlier on about how much we appreciated the show. So I don't know if you have any parting thoughts on that or anything that you're looking forward to in season 4, because they are starting to film season 4. So
I just overall, I think this has been the best season. I mean, I enjoyed the other ones. There was nothing wrong with them. It's just this one, it was just so much more complex, and there were so many. We had all the different stories. I mean, I don't like it when characters get split apart and things, and I want them all to be together in their stories. But this was really done so well that it didn't. I didn't feel that at all. I was like, oh, I got to see what's Bernadette going to do, and what are these guys going to do. So I loved all of that, and I'm so excited to see what they will do in season 4. I read that they're going to do, so there's several books that this is based on. The book they're going to use is called The Ghost Way for the next season. That's going to be kind of like their inspiration and things. And it's partly set in LA.
Oh.
And I was like, what? So we're going to get another expansion of this, it's just partly set. So I don't know what will be happening or how, they didn't say how much or if it's going to be a separate storyline like this one was. They didn't go into all that. They just said that, it would be partly set in LA. And I'm like, what? So that I thought, LA in the 70s, how fun, I don't know where they're going to find that area to film, to make it or something, because, that's drastically different than the LA we know now. But yeah, so I'm just really excited to see what this next season, especially now that we see, Bernadette and Chee all cutesy and, you've got Joe and what's going to happen there. And then what's the next thing that they're going to have to figure out, So yeah, so I'm just really excited for the next season. And I just think this season was just so well done, and I just kudos to everyone involved because it was just phenomenal, and great. You had great guest stars with Jenna Elfman and was it Bruce Greenwood? Is that right?
Yeah.
Spencer. Yeah, it was so much fun having those two in it and things, and so it'll be fun to see if they come back.
Yeah. 70s in LA. When you first said LA, I'm like, okay. But then I thought, ooh, the 70s, that would be fun.
Yeah.
But I love their, where they're at and the whole Navajo Nation. And so I hope I hope it's only partially.
They did say partially. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I would still want all of what's happening here. Plus, if Emma's involved, I'm sure she's not traveling to, well, who knows? Maybe that's where her sister or her family is. I don't know. Maybe that's why they go there. Like, I got to go after my wife and find her. So yeah, it'll be exciting. I can't wait to see it. But, this whole season, I just love the native stories. I love hearing the legends. I love that it's mixed with crime and mystery and secrets and loss and love and just that human connection. So, and I think that this has all of those things. Not every show has all those things, but I just think it's done so well. And, I think it just really hit us emotionally on so many parts of it. And it's just something I think I'm so happy, Renee, that you said, yes, let's do Dark Winds and that you watched it too, because I just think it's really important stories to share. I know it's important for the cast and the crew and the directors and the writers to share these native stories and just with native voices. And I just think it's why we can connect with it deeply, because so much of it is universal of what stems from the heart of the show. So it's very powerful, it's necessary, and it's just something we feel honored to talk about each week. So I'm really grateful that you could share all of this with me and talking about Dark Winds. So
yes, I appreciate the invite, because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I too look forward to all of that and to see what happens with Emma and Joe, and of course, Chee and Bernadette. So really excited about all of that. Let's get back to our question of the day, because we did talk about Chekhov's gun and about Bernadette and that feather really coming back into play in this episode and being what helped her get out of her situation. So this is our question of the day. Have you ever had a small moment or clue in life that ended up being a bigger deal later on?
Well, it took me, because I'm thinking when you ask it, I was like, okay, there's got to be things, right? I know there are, but when you get put on the spot, then you can't pin one down. And then all of a sudden I thought of one. So the first day that I met the man that's now my husband, I had this just really strong feeling that he was going to have an important part or something in my life. And at that time, it wasn't like, oh, I met this guy, I thought, oh, I'm going to marry him. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like, he's going to impact my life somehow. And the end of May, we celebrate 30 years of being married. So it was just this little nugget, and look where it went.
Happy early anniversary. I love it. Yours is the sweetest. I don't want to talk about mine now. Mine's dorky.
Well, mine's kind of cheesy, so
No, it's so good. I love it. Well, I do want to say this happens to all of us so many times. And you're right. When you're asked point blank, okay, what's something small that ended up being big? And when you think back, you think, oh, wow, I can't believe this aligned, because I only thought this and now this, but can I think of those moments? No, I can't. So I'm right there with you, Renee, and not remembering. But the only thing that I did want to bring up for me was I had seen This Is Us way back when that started. And in there, Kate had a friend, and that friend in there asked Kate, do you want to start a podcast? And I remember hearing that. And I'm like, a podcast? What's a podcast? I had to go look up what a podcast was, because I just didn't listen to them or know about them. So I'm like, a podcast? That sounds so cool. And so then I went to my coworker and Brittany, and I said, hey, we're always talking about TV and movies. Do you want to do a podcast on TV and movies? And she said, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it on The Walking Dead. I'm like, cool, let's do it. Screens of Focus was born. And so it was this little thing on a TV show. I mean, how meta is that, right? That we saw something on a TV show, and then that sparked into an idea, and here we are years later. And people like you come to join me to talk about TV and movies, something that I just love so much. So yeah. So for me, that's the little tiny thing
Yeah,
that turned into
that's not
something
dorky
bigger.
at all. I think that's really cool. It's
Thank
always
you,
fun to
Renee.
see where people's ideas come from. And I
Yeah.
mean, just it kind of to the point of the question, you just never know when those things are going to have a very big impact. It could be just the smallest little thing. And later you think, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was what it was
Yeah.
doing, was putting me here, So I think that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyway, friends out there, what about you? Do you have a story to share with us? Because we would love to know, or a comment, anything. We would love to hear from you. Whatever you have to say, you can leave us a comment wherever you're listening or watching us. You can go to our social media and leave a comment on anything there. You can get to all of that in our show notes or at screensandfocus.com. All of our social media links are there because we want to know, have you ever had a small moment or clue in life that ended up being a bigger deal later? Also, you can call us. You can call us and tell us your story at 669-223-8542. That number is also in our show notes. All right. We are going to get to our TV and our movie recommendations. And so what are you watching, Renee?
I kind of watched a lot this time because a lot of it's just been like, I've just been like one episode, kind of thing. I did watch Running Point on Netflix. Have you watched that?
Yes, I love
I
it.
loved it because I kept hearing and I love Kate Hudson. She's always so much fun, and just, I had read, before I watched it, I read that they feel that this performance is very reminiscent of her mother at that age, and I could totally see what they were talking about. She just had the same kind of sense of humor and just how she does things. But I just thought it was such a fun show. I would see these other actors from other series that I've watched, and so that made it even more fun. And they set it up really nicely for the second season, which I did hear they are going to do. So it's basically just their family that owns a basketball team and just how all the interworkings of that as a family, dealing with those and working in business together and all the crazy stuff they come across and things in life. And it was just very good. Yeah. And short episodes again. I think they were like 25-minute episodes, which is just like, that's the second series on Netflix I've watched that's been like that. And I kind of enjoy it. It's just a nice quick watch. So that one was really good. I always love the Harlan Coben adaptations on Netflix. And so I started Missing You. And I just watched the one episode. And it's a little slower than some of them. I mean, it was interesting and I'm going to continue watching it. But it was just to let people know. I'm one of those people that if it's not pretty quick, I don't get like caught in. But I know how the Harlan Coben ones are. So that one was good. And then I did only watch one episode of The Glass Dome, which is kind of the same vein. Like if you like Harlan Coben, I think you're going to like that one too. And it was a slower burn also, but again, an interesting story. So I think I will continue with that one. And then again, I watched one episode of Your Friends and Neighbors on Apple TV. Have you watched that one?
No, not yet.
So it's on Ham. And I don't really know exactly just with the first episode. He's a very wealthy man, and some things happen with his job. I don't really quite understand what's going to, it keeps you kind of guessing as to the whole premise of what's going to happen. So, but it's really good and very engaging. And I'm like, I can't wait to see what's happening here the whole time. You're like, okay, what's going to happen? Yeah. So that one, it started out really good. And then, because I didn't want you to have to be quiet about it, like last week, I watched all 3 episodes of The Last of Us that are currently out. So now we can talk about it. So what did you think?
I was so devastated with episode 2 because I had no idea. Like, I had no idea. Like, none. I was 100% shocked when I saw what happened. Me and my husband, because we don't, I'm on everything. Why I missed this, I didn't know because everybody else knew about it. All the gamers knew about it, but no, I was like, and I watch the show because of Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I watch it, because he's on it. And I'm like, well, I didn't believe it. I did not believe it. I'm like, when Ellie's like, get up, Joe. I'm like, get up, Joe. What's wrong with you? And then when she went through with that, I'm blowing it for people. If people haven't seen this.
The second episode was over a week ago, so that you're allowed to spoil at this point.
I'm like, shoot, I'm saying everything now. Yeah, major spoilers late, but so that's how I felt about it, Renee. Can you tell I'm very emotional about it? So, and then this episode, I was with Ellie. When she was on his clothes, I was crying right there with her. I had tears coming down like,
No. Yeah,
No.
I love the series. I think it's really, really good. I love all of the creatures and how they just keep expanding different things with the snow and they're hiding under, that all of that fascinates me. But I have just been so irritated with Ellie this season. I don't know why. She is just getting on my nerves. And I guess because it's 5 years later, I think it said.
Yeah.
So she should be older now. She shouldn't still be acting like this. I don't know how old she is, but
I think she's supposed to be like 18 or 18-ish, right? Isn't she supposed to be about that?
That's kind of what I was thinking, right? In that area. So 5 years ago, I could see why she was bratty and she was the way she was, and that was okay because she was a little kid. Well, now, you've experienced a lot of stuff in these 5 years. You've become this, sharpshooter and you've learned all these things and you've experienced this horrible world you have to be living in and things. And yet you're still acting like you're a 15-year-old, And so and maybe there's a reason for it. I don't know, but that's really just been frustrating for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I won't say a lot about this most recent episode. Don't want to spoil things for people, but I mean, that ending, it was like, what are those two girls going to do?
I know. I thought the same
I
thing.
glanced away and then I looked back and I went, oh my gosh. Because I thought, what are they going to do? There's two girls.
Exactly. I thought the same thing. I'm like, what? And they're on one horse.
Yeah.
It's like, why are they on one horse? What if something happens to that horse and they're all the way? Like, how do adults let them? I realize that these girls are very fierce for being, the girls that they are. I understand that. But without like an adult, I know they're adults too, but what I mean is someone older, someone a little, even if that guy, even though that's the guy that was talking derogatory to them earlier, but I don't know, just another person that has lived a little bit longer and has just some wisdom about them, no matter what it is. I don't know. I just feel like the fact that it's just them two, I'm sure it's going to be good because why would they do this if they put it out there for a reason? But yeah, I was really worried about them. But then look, we were worried about Bernadette and look, she figured her way out of it. So you just never know.
Yeah. I like the season. Like I said, she's just been very irritating to me, but otherwise I've really enjoyed it. And what's Joel's brother's name?
Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy. I really like his role this season. We see more of him because we just met him at the end of last season, but I really like him and his wife and how they interact together and they, what they're doing in the community and stuff. So it's fun seeing all of that.
I do want to go back to Ellie. I do love them too. I love him. And mind you, now that Joel is gone, because to be honest, Joel was it. Like I said, I wasn't a fan of Ellie. I'm like, no. And Tommy was nice, but that's the brother. It's like, But now that Joel's gone.
So, okay.
So now I'm like, Tommy, Ellie, you know what I mean? So now, Ellie, you better get them now. You got to show them. So it changes the dynamic of things. It really, truly does. So I found that interesting that I felt that way. Like I thought, now I feel a little bit different in this episode about Ellie. Where's this going to go? All right. There's so much more we could talk about this, I swear. But let me share with you my TV and movie recommendation. So I only watched one episode, and this is The Stolen Girl. It's from Freeform, but I watched it on Hulu. For some reason, I only got one episode, but when I looked, it looked as though I could watch a lot more. So now I'm going to have to go back. But I'm going to tell you, I was like, wanted to know what was going to happen. It looks like a British program, and the mom lets her daughter go on a play date, and then the daughter gets stolen. It's like, what? And they go to the house to get their daughter, and it's not what it seems. And it's really scary in that regard, like safeguarding your children from people and things. And so it just really set it up really good, this first episode. So I cannot wait to watch another episode of that. Now, this is an older show, and I don't know if you've seen this, but Good Girls on Netflix. Have you seen this?
I don't think so.
So the reason you're going to laugh at why I watch this, the reason I watched this is I was going through my TikToks and this guy was saying almonds and he was talking about how he went to the store and the cashier or customer service person referred to like he was saying it incorrectly. So he came back and made this video about his own. Am I saying almonds wrong? He's all because she thought I should have said it almonds or something like that. I don't know exactly how she said it. Well, somebody in his comments said, "Get in the car, Elizabeth." And they kept saying this phrase back to him so many times. I'm like, what does that mean? And he thought to himself, what does that mean? So I go look it up and it's from the series, Good Girls. So I'm like, I'm going to have to tune into Good Girls. So I tuned into Good Girls and now I've seen around 3 or 4 episodes so far and it's pretty good. It's about these 3 women who are desperate for money and they revert to robbing a grocery store and where it goes from there. So it's just, it's good. I like it. And it's a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there might be 4 seasons. I don't know if I might have ended by now, but it's pretty good. So I would check it out. And they are short episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So they're easy to watch. So it's fun so far. So I can't wait to watch more of that. For movies, I went and watched The Accountant 2 at the movie theaters. And I had mentioned to you last week that I'd seen the first Accountant,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so good. This was good. It was solid. Ben Affleck and John Bernthal. It wasn't as good as the first. It had more humor in it. And it did deal with the dynamics of the brothers, which I did appreciate that because it did show a lot between them, which did make it comedic. And there was a really fun scene of line dancing with Ben Affleck's character. And that was so fun to watch and to see John Bernthal's reaction to that. So pay attention to that scene if you go watch it. But it was good. It was a good watch. I'm glad I watched it. I also saw The Last Stop in Yuma. Have you seen this one at all? This is from 2023. It's set in the 70s, and it's about this one stop that people need gas. And when you get there, you need gas, but the gas truck hasn't come yet. So you have to go into this diner. At the same time, there's been a bank robbery and these guys in a green Pinto. Well, eventually the green Pinto comes to get gas and has to stop at the diner. And one by one, different patrons and locals come to this place. And it is crazy what happens. Okay, I'm not going to tell you because that's the fun of it. But I was like gripped till the very last second. It was highly entertaining. And it is brutal and it is intense. So know that. Okay, there's a theme going here because The Accountant was brutal, The Last Stop in Yuma was brutal, and Havoc is brutal. Havoc is on Netflix with Tom Hardy, and he is a police officer that is not on the up and up, but there's worse people on the payroll, worse cops, worse assassins, all of that. It's kind of like John Wick. Like on television, that style, because it's about assassins and people killing each other and shooting and all kinds of things. If you like that action and thriller and killing, then you will enjoy this with Tom Hardy. So that is what I watch. All right, Renee, thank you for your recommendations. I really do appreciate you so much. I would love for you to share about your writing so that people know what you do.
Yeah, so I write primarily for a site called Undead Walking. So obviously it's very Walking Dead related, but I also write for other TV entertainment type shows. And you have my link in the show notes, I think, that you can go to my portfolio and follow me there and you'll see all the stuff that I write. But yeah, primarily Walking Dead, but then I try to cover, what the actors are in, most currently what they're being cast in, or even if I find out about an old something they've been in, I'll write, an article about that just to keep people informed of all the different types of shows that the actors from the series and spinoffs and everything. So yeah, so check it out.
Yes, please check it out. It is in the show notes. Okay, side note, with you talking about that, I was just talking to my husband about all the actors that are in other things that stem from The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, any of The Walking Dead, right? There's so many. I mean, Norman Reedus is going to be in the latest John Wick, I guess, spinoff, Ballerina. Yeah, so he's in that, with John Bernthal being in The Accountant 2. We've seen Coleman Domingo, who has been nominated for an Oscar, and other shows that he's in. And there's so many others. Stephen Yeun, who's in so many things, who I adore so much. And I try to watch everything that he is in. So you talk about all of those in a lot of your writing too. But anyway, Renee, thank you so much again for joining me. Just really thrilled, really happy. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all your insights, and just love having you on Screens in Focus.
Thank you so much for asking, because I love it being here, and it's just fun to have someone to talk to about it and bounce ideas off of. And then I know we say something and then it gets me another idea. And it's just a lot of fun. And I appreciate you asking.
Please come back.
Of course.
Thank you, friends out there, for tuning in. We are really grateful that you joined us. We hope we said something that gave you some insights, a chuckle. We're just here to share what we love. Please subscribe to Screens in Focus at screensinfocus.com. And remember to keep watching, keep exploring, and keep those screens in focus. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.